Welcome to Babe Take a Seat. I'm your host, Jeanine, and I help women pivot with intention during life transitions like divorce, menopause, life change, and other life transitions. My guests today are Joey Jamesley and Janna Stevens. Joey is an interior designer out of Chandler, Arizona, and Janna is a lifestyle and branding photographer, and both very good friends of mine. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Yeah,
Thanks
so
for
happy
having
to be
us.
here.
Hey. I love the conversation that we're about to have, which will be hard and beautiful and all of the things. And I'm super excited to have you guys have it with me because I've known you all for so long and I know the kind of people you are. And it really is something that I think we need to talk more about. So these deep conversations, I've said to y'all many times since I've known you, I'm sure that small talk is my kryptonite. And I really love the deep, soul filled conversation. And I am fascinated as I have experienced types and significant loss in my life, the loss of my son, loss of my 20-year marriage, and other things that 52 years of life brings. But it's always fascinating to me that the beauty that can come out of the other side of these really difficult sides of pain, and you both have experienced and are on the other side of breast cancer. So I appreciate that you all are willing to talk about that.
Yeah, of course. And I think it's
Do you?
Absolutely.
because we're both at different points of that journey too. So we'll get some different perspectives from each of us. So I think that's kind of cool too.
Can you give just a little bit of like where you are and sort of just enough so that we understand kind of where you're sitting with it now, what your perspective is, and then we can dive into like truly the experiences. And I have a couple of questions I'd really like to ask, and we'll
Sure.
go from there.
Janna, you want to go first?
Sure. So actually today, I'm 1 month away from my year anniversary of my diagnosis day. So
Oh,
um, I've almost been going through this for a year now. I had a lumpectomy and radiation, and I just recently had my 6 month checkup with my oncologist. So I'm kind of at that stage where, I'm past treatment, but it's always still something that is kind of lingering in the back of my mind and kind of, that dark cloud that follows. Is it back? Is it coming back? And I think that's how it's going to be for the rest of my life.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I am about 7 months since my diagnosis day. I was diagnosed at the end of November. And then I had my double mastectomy in February, on February 12th. So I'm just a few months post-op from that. And my reconstruction was called deep flap. And so that's where they use your own tissue to reconstruct your own breasts. And my oncotype came back where I didn't have to have chemo either. I know Jan and I have talked oncotype score, which basically is that score is tells you the reoccurrence rate. So like how likely it is for the breast cancer to come back. And so I was in the middle, but low enough that I didn't have to have chemo or anything. I didn't have to have radiation, but I am taking a daily pill, like a cancer blocking pill, and then a monthly injection. So I don't know, Jenna, are you doing like Zoladex or any of the injections or like just a daily pill?
Just a daily pill. I don't have to have the injections, but my daily pill, I have to take that for 10 years.
Yeah, same.
So it's the estrogen blocker for 10
Mm.
years.
Isn't that wild? Like 10 years? Like what? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Sorry, ladies. Definitely gonna edit that out.
The spider.
I definitely don't want it to be like you're talking serious and I'm
I like that though.
10 years. So yes, so back to the 10 years. That is crazy. Like that is a long time. And yeah. So life is different for you. That like life is going to be different for the next 10 years in a lot of ways, right? You're going to be taking this medication. How you let me ask it this way. When and this is my own like the only way I can relate in some way to this sort of significant mortality question, right? When I lost my son, it was like the universe tilted and it never righted again. And I just had to learn to live in this tilted universe. And my new normal was a new normal. It's
Right.
not what the old normal was.
Mhm.
And I had to adapt and adjust and live that way. So, how do you see that you're different? And I know it's fairly fresh, but how are you different now? How is your normal different now than it was before? And how are you navigating that?
That's a really good question. And I think that we're probably going to have different answers just because our treatment was different. In our,
Mhm.
you know, our radiation and lumpectomy is such a different recovery road than it has its own challenges, you know, compared to a mastectomy and a deep flap in particular, just because it's like massive, you know, abdominal surgery. But I don't know. Do you want me to go first on that one?
Yes, please. Yes.
So I'm
And not just like medically, just you're a different person than you were before. You got me. Go.
No, that's actually so true. I just posted on my Instagram a reel called Bye Bye Boobies
Yeah.
because it's kind of a weird like mind fuck a little bit, you know, where you like the breasts that I breastfed my baby with, like they're not there anymore, you know, and they're this totally different, even though it's still my own tissue, it's still just a foreign body learning to like adapt up there, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So physically, like my normal for my physical abilities is going to be completely different, which takes a toll mentally as well because I can't do the things yet that I used to be able to do, like the paddleboarding and the hiking and the working out and things like that. And so mentally, that's really hard. Even just like moving a sofa, you know, like things that you just so easily could just do without thinking about it, I can't do right now. And so giving myself grace along that kind of recovery road just as a constant reminder for me because I do get frustrated with that. Um, and then, you know, gosh, the normal of what your body and getting used to what your body looks like. And it's so different. I just feel like that's such like a multi-branched, you know, question because there's so many different pieces that go to like what is normal in regards to like your life as a whole, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And how has this like shifted your identity, right?
Well, for me, have started looking at things a little differently. I've started, you know, dissecting things that are in my environment, things that I eat, things that I put on my body, my skincare. I now carry around an app that I scan pretty much everything to see how toxic those items are. I have a 10-year-old daughter who, you know, her world is skincare right now. That's,
Mhm.
you know, what everybody's talking about and doing. And, you know, I'm very protective of what she goes out and buys and puts on her body because I know, you know, at least I don't know why I got my cancer, but
Mhm.
I have a feeling that it was environmental and, you know, all these things that we eat, we drink, we, you know, clean our home with, that we put on our bodies, all of that buildup of toxins, you know, obviously can't be good for us. So, you know, every single day that's what I'm thinking about. What am I putting in my body? What am I eating? What am I doing? You know, all those things. And it's to a different degree. Like before, I used to work out all the time and, you know, I considered myself very healthy. I know, you know, you don't always eat the healthiest. Sometimes you have a few drinks, you know, here and there, but I considered myself very healthy. And then, you know, all of a sudden I have breast cancer. And at this point in my recovery, I am just now starting to get back into working out and moving my body again. So that's been a huge kind of disconnect with my old life because, you know, that was so important to me.
Yeah.
I was a Division 1 college athlete, and, you know, working out and playing volleyball has always been very important to me. So just getting back into playing, which I just started back again a couple months ago, and having my body be a little different. Like I have pain from the medicine that I take, joint pain, and I have to wear an extra brace on my arm, and all these weird things that shouldn't be happening to me. But I'm thankful that I'm here and that I can play volleyball, and that I can move my body. So it's just like you said, giving myself grace. I really try to give myself grace, and the days that I am too tired, I don't beat myself up like I used to, because the radiation for me really took a toll, and I had an extremely hard time getting myself up and going, and some days I couldn't even get out of bed, you know only for my treatment. So it's just been a huge adjustment for me.
I heard you talking, and I heard you say, there's gratitude, the gratitude that you can play, gratitude. There's also grief. How do you reconcile those two at the same time? The gratitude and the grief. How do you hold those in your life?
That's a good question, because I feel like sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Sure.
I only have space for one,
Yeah.
But it is okay to feel them both at the same time too,
Yeah.
gosh, and I think grief is just, it comes in different, at least for me, it came in like different stages, and I was grieving different things. So like when you're waiting for your results to know, like, do I have cancer? Do I not have cancer? Like, you're grieving different things than you do
Mm-hmm.
later on, So
Yeah.
it's kind of a weird, because there's kind of all those unknowns. So you kind of start grieving things you shouldn't even be grieving at first, because you're just kind of scared, but then after you have your diagnosis, and then you have your surgeries or your radiations or whatever, then it's different things that you're kind of grieving, at least for me, so
Yeah.
I think I'm still learning how to balance them both, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and I think we as women, we have to balance two completely different things all the time. I mean, if you think of when you had your first child, and you're grieving the fact that you're no longer the woman that you used to be, and being able to do the things that you used to be able to do, but you're so happy and in love with this beautiful baby that is in front of you. Like, I feel like us as women, we are always put in that position where we are grieving two, or feeling two different emotions that are like on completely different sides.
Yes, totally, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. It's amazing how like grief splits you open, right? In a way that I think, interestingly, I don't even think that joy can. I've talked about this before, and in my book, that when Max died, I asked the group, which was a support group, and I said, like, will I ever feel joy again? And I truly thought she would be like, nah, you're fucked. Like, he's just not feel it again. And she said, I've heard that you will feel it to more extremes. And it's true. It's like this spectrum of, or a palette of colors that I gained access to in such a tragic and heartbreaking way, but that also made me see the greens more green and the blues more blue, and this ability to hold like just that ambivalence of love and pain and joy and happiness and grief and doubt and shame and fear and all of it at once. And you're right, Janna. I think we as women are often primed for it, and it's not that men don't as well. But yeah, we are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just think of childbirth for sakes, right?
Yeah.
Like,
we're expected to hold it, hold both emotions.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you say that too, Jeanine, about how it changed your perspective on things in a way you weren't really expecting it to. Because I kind of feel the same way about cancer, because as shitty as it is, getting diagnosed with cancer, it forced me because after my surgery, I was still out of commission for, probably 8 weeks at least. And so it really forced me to like slow down, sit down, and reassess like what's important to me. who's important to me, where do I want to have my time, what do I want to be putting my time into and my energy. And I became like super protective of all of that because I didn't have time. I didn't My plate
Yeah.
was full, it was spilling over, and I couldn't tuck any of that extra bullshit into the crevices, right? So it really made me take a step back and look at that as far as personal life, relationships, work, all of the things. And then it also
Yeah.
really kind of forced me to so I know we touched a little bit about like on our bodies. It really forced me to have a better appreciation for my body and to love it
Yeah.
in a different way, because
Mm-hmm.
I have this like campaign. I'm like, I am challenging these beauty standards because I think they're bullshit. And it's like we're told we have to look and be and do a certain, a certain way to be beautiful and whatever. And so I'm like, absolutely not. I think that's, especially with all of our scars and maybe our boobs look different compared to how they did before. And so, that is what I have found in the mastectomy community and the deep flap community, because our scars are so prevalent that people are having a really hard time appreciating and loving their bodies. And it's like, but look
Yeah.
what your body's doing, and it's kicking cancer's ass and doing amazing things. So I think that's a joy in and of itself, to be able to look at yourself differently too. So it's weird
Yeah.
how you said traumatic experiences can kind of like, if you're open to it, I will say, if you're open to seeing
Yeah.
it from that way, how it can open
Sure.
your eyes in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, everything we experience is life changing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how we're able to observe it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not a Pollyanna saying silver lining, but exactly right, right? It does tend to open our worlds in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure.
How has, I love to talk about intuition. I like to
Mm-hmm.
weave it into every conversation I can. Intuition is the root of everything I live daily and help other women with, right? Understanding their intuition and trusting themselves. And there's this, it can be difficult to decipher between fear and intuition. A lot of us think that when we have fears that pop up, that's our intuition saying that's dangerous. And actually it's fear, right? And so without going into how we kind of decode that, and knowing that you both are very intuitive people and embrace it in your everyday life. How did you notice? It's a twofold question. Did you have intuitive insight before, during, after, now? Did you have intuitive insight during this process? And if so, sort of, can you give us an example of how it came up and how you identified it as intuition? And yeah, we'll start with that, so I won't layer the questions.
Yeah, because I won't remember. Short-term memory loss is a thing, though, my friend.
I've already forgotten the second one.
So,
Do you want to go first, Joey?
sorry. Okay, so it was, did I have intuition? Gosh, I do feel like I know my body really well. And so when I got that first, inkling, like my doctor, which is for a normal pap smear, when she was like, I think I want you to go have this thing looked at. I just feel like I knew right from then, like, yeah, it is what it is. It's gonna be cancer, even though everyone around me was like, no, like, stay positive, like, so, and it was, but I think that kind of helped me like mentally prepare. So when I did get the news that it was, I can't think about, I'll have to think for a second. I'm gonna pass over to Jan to see what she says, because I
Okay.
gotta where else my
I didn't prep you.
in.
I didn't
So
prep you for this.
for me, my mom had breast cancer, and she had done the BRCA testing. It came back negative, but I had been doing screenings since I was, I believe, 36. And after she didn't do the BRCA testing until a little bit later. So, I was always worried I was going to get breast cancer. Then she did the BRCA test and it came back negative. And I thought, oh, it's negative. That means that I can't be positive. So I'm good. This is not a thing. But I was still doing the screenings because I'm like, okay, this is just something I have to do. So I'll just do it. And then I had my mammogram in December. That came back clear. I was fine. And that summer, I had gotten this like, it wasn't really a rash, but it was like a discoloration on my shoulder. And I had started researching that, and it said that it's like a fungus that you can get in your skin. And then as I was researching it more, it said that it could also be a sign of breast cancer because it had come down over my whole shoulder and my arm, and it had moved down to my right breast. And
Wow.
I was like, I know I have breast cancer. Like it wasn't like I was fearful. It was, I know this is my body telling me something's wrong. And so I
Right.
went to the skin doctor because over 40, I'd never gotten checked before. And the doctor was like, oh, yeah, you're fine. It's just a fungus. Here's some stuff to, rub on those areas. And I was like, it's cancer. I know it's cancer. And I went for my MRI because my gynecologist had pushed for extra screenings that year. So I went for my first MRI, and so that was in July of last year. And it came back that I had two masses in my right breast. So it wasn't, I wasn't fearful, but it was my body telling me, giving me that sign like, hey, something's going on here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. I think we just
It is.
I don't know. I just feel like
Yeah.
you just have that inkling, that intuition.
Yeah.
You just kind of know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Have you read the book, The Gift of Fear?
No.
No.
I have it on my list. It's I'll let you know, but
Okay.
it's about
Mhm.
it's a guy who researched actually it was about violence, but how that our intuition, if we listen, that there were indications ahead. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty fascinating. But outside of that, I am fascinated and I do a lot of work around the impact of trauma and transitions. So trauma of any kind. I'm trying to use the word trauma because it's a clinical term for one, right? And also it's people either relate to it or they don't. There's lots of different kinds of trauma. So
Yeah.
for lack, because I haven't figured out how other to describe it at this point, we'll say trauma and transitions, and how that impacts intuition.
Mm.
So whether it's grief or loss or perimenopause and hormonal changes or lifestyle changes, but those stressful, traumatic and ways transitions and how it impacts intuition is very fascinating to me. And so I will lead into another question with a little more information. So it's clearly different than the one that I asked, which is evaluating your intuition before you were diagnosed and how it played in your everyday life and how aware you were of it, into that high stress sort of, sympathetic state, that fight and flight state, and to now where you're coming out of it and living in a new way. I won't say we're never out of these things, right? It's always part of us. But have you noticed, and I'm asking you to reflect probably for the first time ever, to this question, but did you notice any shifts?
Mm.
Did you was it dulled at all during times of stress, or was it more clear?
I don't think it was dulled at all. I've always been had a pretty good intuition, especially when it came to like my body. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
knew I have struggled with fertility issues for a really long time. My whole life, I've had girly bit issues forever since like 15. And when I was first trying to get pregnant, like I knew that I had an ectopic pregnancy. I knew it. And my doctor swore up and down, like, no, you don't, no, you don't, you're fine, don't have any STDs or all the things that usually are precursors to cause an ectopic pregnancy. But I knew like 100%. And after testing and a DNC and all these things, because I, I came back pregnant, but I knew that it was ectopic. And then my numbers weren't going up. And then he told me I was having like a miscarriage and that I had a DNC. And it turned out to be ectopic pregnancy, like after, weeks and weeks of testing. And I'm like, Okay. So, I think that it was very, I don't think it's been dulled. I think it's been the same. And,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't think it's dulled at all. I don't know if it's been heightened either, but I think it's
Yeah.
kind of remaining like the same it's always been, where I just feel confident in like what I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you understand how to read it.
Yeah.
How about you, Janna?
I say the same. I don't feel I know that I have a lot of intuition, and I know things about, you know, my body and myself, and but I don't feel like anything has really changed with it. What I do know is that fear that, comes in, and that has definitely increased because, like I was saying before, every doctor's visit I go to, every test I take, every little
Yeah,
thing that happens, every ache in my body, I'm like, oh my God, it's come back. It's spreading, it's somewhere else. It's like this complete fear that just takes over you, and you have to just take a minute and be like, okay, take a deep breath. You need to calm yourself down, you know, get into a better headspace and try to, get through that, because all the other signs are pointing, your tests come back clear, but it's something that I feel like is just going to follow me for forever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. I think
yeah,
it's important
yeah.
too, like, I'm such an advocate now for like early detection testing. And I mean, I was before, but now I'm like, you need to do it.
Yeah.
And trying to help other people to have the confidence in their own intuition, because like we
Mm-hmm.
know our bodies, and like we just need to listen to them and be able to not
Yeah,
be afraid just because a doctor maybe says one thing. Like if we don't agree with that, then go get a second opinion, but a lot of people are just
Yeah.
like
yeah.
afraid to do
Self-advocate.
that or whatever. So it's like, no, just you need to, I feel so important just to really listen to what your gut is telling you. It's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's such a level of like increased self-agency, I think, and self advocacy and agency
Mm-hmm.
when your intuition is when you're listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I found that during the depths of the tragedy when my son was literally dying and they were trying to, revive him and figure out what was wrong, my intuition became so clear and so focused and so undeniable. But previously it had dulled due to other complex, parts of my life. But it was, and it can be the opposite for other people. I'm always fascinated to hear, and in different times and in different experiences in our lives, right? But when you have that knowing, because intuition is that calm knowing, whether you like the answer or not,
Mm-hmm.
you know that it's the right answer,
Mm-hmm.
and don't have to explain it to other people, and you don't even feel that you need to, because when you're that sure, nothing else really matters.
Yeah.
You know it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's such a gift, I guess, such a tool that we can carry.
Well, and I think in this world too, as far
So
as
yeah,
breast cancer goes, oh, Malone's laid there. You get so many options. Well, you have cancer, so you can do A, B, C, D, and or maybe A with a little bit of a version of B, and then they say, what do you want to do? And it's kind of it's left that to
Yeah.
you to choose. Because I could
yeah,
have
Yeah.
done vaccine and radiation as well, but I guess that could be an intuition for me. Like before I even got my diagnosis, I knew 100% without a doubt I was taking them off. Like, wasn't going to mess around with it because I'm really good at being the 1% where like stuff's going to go wrong. So I'm like, nope, take them out. I don't need them anymore.
Yeah.
So, that was part of my intuition, just being super confident and like, absolutely not. So, but like, it's hard to know, sometimes I think for people what to do because there's just so many options. So I think starting to be able to listen to yourself and have it get clear, because like, yeah, for me, like I said, 100% without a doubt, we're both going, not just one. Because I mean, like, there's just, you can do a double mastectomy, a single mastectomy, a lumpectomy, deep flap,
Yeah.
implants. I mean, there's so many different things to do. So I think it's really important to try to get that clarity, to have it make a little more sense for you, so you know what you want to do for you, because you're the only person that really matters for that decision.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah. And then,
100% agree with Joey. I was in the same position. I could have gotten the double mastectomy, um, and I chose to do the lumpectomy because the one reason is because I had to wait 2 months to get that surgery. And I was so petrified that
Well,
in those 2 months, my cancer was going to spread. And I was like, get this thing out of my body. I was able to get on the surgery table within like a week if I just did the lumpectomy. And I was like, put me in. I need this out of my body quick. Like, there was no doubt about it. You know, I was so frightened that it was going to spread and my life was going to be over. So I chose the quick way, you know, and you know, you just have to listen to your body, listen to what you feel is right for you in your situation. And, you know, you need to be that advocate. You need to do the research. You need to talk to multiple doctors. You need to figure out, because there are so many different ways that you can take this. There's so, like, cancer is so crazy how it's so different, and it's so different for everybody on everybody's body. And you know, they just kind of say, here are your options.
Yep.
What do you want to do? And it's like,
like,
God, I have no idea.
Like, you tell me.
Yeah. Someone, please.
Yeah.
If this was you, what would you do? You know, so it's frightening that, you know, this decision is all you.
Agree.
yeah, that is. And if you don't access, you know, that your inner wisdom in some way, then, you know, I feel like you more likely doubt your decisions when they're, you know, made for
Yeah.
you without that. But of course, we need the science behind it. We need the advice and consult.
Yeah.
So I know we could talk forever. I love this, but I want to respect your time. I think it's important for anyone who's listening, whether they're, you know, going through cancer or know somebody who has, what ways would you suggest, or what helped you the best? Let me rephrase this. Can you tell us how someone could support someone going through cancer? How's that?
Yes.
I would say, don't ask the person, can I do anything for you? Just don't ask them, because everyone's going to say, oh no, I'm fine. I don't need anything. I'm good. Just do it. Take them that meal. Send them that DoorDash. Just do something. Anything. If you think they might need it or it might help, don't even ask. Just do it. Because, you know, if you're anything like me, I'm extremely stubborn, and I will tell everybody, nope, I'm good. I can handle this. I'm strong. I was down for the count. I couldn't take care of my family. I could not cook a meal. I could not get up and be that mother during my radiation. And so my friends banded together and sent me meals every single night. And that's what sustained my family. Like, it's just a matter of, even though you think they're strong, even though they say they're okay, just do it.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
I would totally agree with that, because I think you kind of feel like, well, cancer's a burden already, and so I don't want to put more of a burden, especially I think like mothers too. You know, we are so used to being like usually the primary person that's taking care of us, so it's hard to not be able to do that. But I 100% agree with what you just said. I would add something different for that, because that was one of the things I was going to say, was accept the help. So I'm glad that you said that. So I would say something else that you could do to help people is just to have patience and grace for not understanding everything that's going on or what they're feeling, because they don't.
Yeah.
You know, it's a weird roller coaster that sometimes maybe you're fine and the next moment it's really hour by hour, minute by minute sometimes, especially going through recovery. There might be days where you feel like absolute garbage, and then a few hours
Mm,
later you're fine. So, or maybe you're crying and then you're happy the next minute. So I just would say have that grace to, one, just be patient with whoever it is, and then two, don't feel like you necessarily always have to fix whatever it is that they're necessarily going through, because I think that those emotions just need to be processed, um,
Mm-hmm.
and felt and released, so they're not trapped in there causing more cancer. um, but then to just all, so yeah, so just have that patience and the grace to just be there. You don't have to fix it, and just give the space that's needed for whatever, feeling and healing and recovery looks like for that person, because it is different but for everybody.
yeah, yeah. So good. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for talking about it all and sharing your experience and all that. I appreciate you guys so much.
Yeah,
Thanks
it
for
was nice.
having us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to have you all back. There's a lot more that I wanted to ask, but
Yes.
we'll do
Tip of
that for
the
today.
iceberg.
So awesome. Yeah, right. Well, I do have one final question I ask everybody, and it's this. When you tap into your intuition, what are 3 words that describe how you feel? Just at the top of your
Ooh,
head.
empowered would be one for me. Calm, and I guess safe just keeps popping in. So if I'm going with just what coming up, that would be empowered, safe, and what did I just say? Calm.
Calm. That's fantastic. Janna?
I'd say mine is strong, calm, and I like the clear.
Yeah, very good. Awesome. All right. Love you both. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Love you.
Talk with you
Okay.
soon.
Bye bye.